Hi, I'm Mark and welcome to the Barefoot Driver YouTube channel. In this video I'm going to show you how to revive old and tired paintwork on a friend's original paint 1970 VW bus. This technique will work on original paint, it will work on old paint, it will work on new paint. Please feel free to leave comments or questions in the box below and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. So this is Martin's 1970 Deluxe Microbus. As you can see, we've done a little bit of paint around the windscreen surround where it needed some paint because somebody had done some before, and then we've just gently kind of buffed it in before the paint was 100% hard. But what we're going to do is we're going to wet sand the entire bus with 1500 wet and dry, and then go over it with a machine buffer before we blend any more spots in. You can see around this side where we've already done some polishing and it's come up really well. So this is how to do it. So these are the products that we're going to use. We've got a machine buffer there. It's a variable speed one, a bit later about that. We've got some 3M Fast Cut Plus. I have used Ferrecla G3 before to good effect, but an old school painter that I know uses this stuff, swears by it. And then we've got some 1500 wet and dry that we're going to wet sand the entire bus with before we buff it. Okay, so we've got a bowl of warm washing up water. I've put some washing up liquid in there as well. Just check that yours doesn't have salt. Okay, so we've got a bowl of warm washing up water. I've put some washing up liquid in there as well. Just check that yours doesn't have salt in it, otherwise that'll eat into the bodywork. It's about -1 degrees in here, it's freezing. So the water fortunately is warm. So I've just been soaking this paper in there for a minute or two, and now we're going to have a go on the panel. So what we're aiming to do here is remove a lot of the dead paint. So we keep putting fresh water on there, and then it takes off all the really dead paint before we get to the machine buffing stage. So now you can see quite a puddle of blue water on the floor. We've given this quite a go over. You can kind of see, if we look close, there's the focus, that it's a bit shinier, and then we've taken a lot of the kind of dead paint off. You can still see the odd small area, but what we're going to do now is give it a go over with the machine buffer. Now if your paint's a lot worse than this, you can go down to about 800 paper, and if it's not too bad at all, you can either skip the sanding section or you could use 2000. The guy that gave me the advice about the 3M compound sometimes wet sands up to 6000, especially on black cars for a mirror finish, so bear that in mind too. So you can see on here where there's a few sections years and years ago that somebody sanded back and then put some primer on. And we're going to do a better job of these once we've buffed the paint. The whole idea is to buff and then blend in some areas. So you can see here where I've sanded off the old primer on top with some 1000 grit wet and dry. I'm just going to show you a section here. And see how easily the old primer comes off the top. Okay, so we're just sanding off the old primer that's been put on the top. Again, just 1000 grit. so we're not taking too much of the original paint off. And there you can see another spot there. Replenish the water. And what we'll do when we polish the paint, we'll blend these spots in, but use a lot less primer. Just mask off the actual spots. Let's get a cloth and give that a wipe down. So now you might be able to see, but we've sanded off the primer surrounding these parts, and then we've sanded over the whole thing with 1500. Problem is, if you do all of it with 1000, you put small scratches in there, and you also take a lot more paint off. So we've done it all with 1500. We're now going to dry it all off, give it a wipe down, and then we're going to break out the buffer. So this is what we're going to use to buff the paint. So basically fast cut plus. You could get similar results with G3 for Ecla G3. T-cut's probably a little bit too lightweight for this sort of job, but what we're going to do is we're going to use a machine buffer. But first we've got to put the stuff on the panel, which Martin's going to do now. So you can see what we're doing is we're literally just wiping it on the panel. We don't want to get it on too thick, otherwise when we put the machine buffer on, it's going to flick everywhere and cause a mess. So we're literally just going to wipe it on the panel like this. Not too much action there, just get plenty on there, and then we can give it a go with the buffer. Just aiming to do one panel at a time, otherwise the stuff's going to dry out. If you're working in the heat or in the hot sun, yeah, then it's going to dry out a lot quicker. So maybe even just do a square meter at a time or less. If you're in America, you probably don't know what a meter is, but it's about 3 foot. I don't know. Oh my god. As you can see there, we've just polished a small bit, which is nice and shiny so far. So we've got the buffing machine here. It's a Clark model. A quick word on speed. This one's variable speed, so we've got it on about between 3 and 4. If you've got any new paint that you're going to polish, you want to put it really low, sort of 1, 2, and just be really careful. Especially sort of modern cellulose type paint that's not actually cellulose, because you'll go through it really fast. If in doubt, just use your hand basically. Use some compound on your hand in those areas. This is really old paint, so we can crank it up a little bit, 3.5 maybe. And we're going to hold it at an angle. Don't put the pad flat on the van because it's just going to go everywhere. So we're going to hold it at an angle and keep going over a certain area until we've polished it. So now we've been all over it with the machine, and we basically need to polish it off with a cloth. Nice, clean, soft cloth. What you might need to do is get 2 different cloths, because you can see it's bringing a lot of compound off on this, so keep changing it up. Get to a nice, clean bit of cloth, and just you want to finish up with some microfiber cloth or something. So this is just the first stage. We might go over and redo some areas of this. I can see a bit here where it's not really taken as well. There's obviously still some dead paint on there. In the light, bud. So.
I was just admiring your reflection. Oh.
So this is where you open the door just so we can get into all the edges. Obviously, if you're not confident with the buffer, then for edges and anywhere where there's any things that the buffer could catch, you can kind of see where we've caught it already a couple of times. But if you're not confident, then just get a cloth with some compound and do it by hand. It's a lot more work, but it's the easiest way to do it. What we've done is we've managed to get into most of the edges here and polish all the little bits that are going to let the finished job down. We've also polished on here. We did it on a really low speed. I'll show you that in a minute, just to blend in. This is all new paint, so to blend this in with the old paint, which, as you can see, you're not going to be able to tell now that it's been done. So we're going to polish this bit that we painted last week. We've let it dry for a week exactly. It's quite cold, but it should be pretty dry. We're still going to be really careful with the buffer, put it down to about 1.5 to 2, and we're just going to really gently go over it. We're not going to push hard at all like we do on the rest of the bodywork. We're just aiming to bring a shine to it. It's pretty shiny already, but it can just pop. So here we go. Just give it a quick polish off with the cloth. You can see just how much difference it makes. Just makes it shiny like the rest of the bus.